Diplomatic officer Lyra Winters had attended countless first contact meetings, but something about this one felt different. The moment the Varadean Ambassador entered the conference room aboard the Earth diplomatic vessel Concordia her head began to tingle with an unfamiliar sensation. Ambassador Nyx stood nearly 7 feet tall, his iridescent skin shifting between deep purple and midnight blue. Like all Varadians, he possessed 4 arms and elongated features that seemed to catch and reflect light in mesmerizing ways. But it wasn't his appearance that caught Lyra's attention, it was the sudden wave of emotions that weren't her own. "Welcome aboard the Concordia Ambassador," she said, maintaining her professional composure despite the strange pressure building behind her temples. "I'm Diplomatic Officer Winters." Curiosity, fascination, uncertainty. The feelings crashed over her like waves and she nearly stumbled. These weren't her emotions, they were his. She could feel them as clearly as if they were her own. Nyx tilted his head, his silver eyes widening slightly. "Officer Winters," he said, his voice carrying an ethereal quality that seemed to resonate in her chest. "I am experiencing something unexpected." The other diplomats in the room continued their formal introductions, oblivious to the silent exchange happening between Lyra and Nyx. She tried to focus on Protocol Officer Damian Reed's speech about Earth's commitment to peaceful relations, but her attention kept drifting to the alien awareness brushing against her consciousness. "Can you sense my thoughts?" The question floated through her mind in Nyx's voice. Lyra's heart raced. She shouldn't be able to hear him like this. Varadians were known for their advanced technology, not telepathic abilities, and humans certainly didn't possess such capabilities. Yes, she thought back, trying to direct her response toward him. "This isn't normal for either of our species, is it?" "No," came his reply, tinged with both wonder and concern. "We must speak privately." The formal meeting proceeded for another hour, with Lyra and Nyx maintaining their professional facades while their minds danced in silent conversation. They learned to control the connection somewhat, to push thoughts forward or hold them back, like adjusting the volume on a radio. When the initial diplomatic formalities concluded, Lyra suggested giving the ambassador a tour of the ship's cultural exchange center. Once alone in the observation deck, they finally addressed the phenomenon directly. "This has never happened before," Lyra said aloud, watching the stars through the vast window. "I've met hundreds of alien species, but I've never experienced anything like this." Nyx moved to stand beside her, his 4 hands clasped behind his back. "In all our records of interspecies contact, there is no mention of spontaneous telepathic connections. Yet here we are, our minds intertwined without any technological assistance." "Could it be dangerous?" Lyra asked, though she already sensed his answer through their link. "I don't feel any harm from it," he replied. "If anything, it seems to be strengthening, becoming clearer." He was right. With each passing moment, their mental connection grew more refined. She could now distinguish subtle variations in his thoughts, the complex layers of Varadian emotion that had no human equivalent. "We should report this," Lyra said, though uncertainty colored her thoughts. Nyx's response carried a hint of protectiveness. "Perhaps we should study it first, understand what we're dealing with. My people can be reactive to unprecedented situations, and I sense your superiors might be equally cautious." She knew he was right. The diplomatic mission was delicate enough without throwing an unprecedented psychological phenomenon into the mix. Both their species were still learning to trust each other after centuries of isolation. "Then we keep it between us for now," Lyra agreed. "But we need to understand what's happening. Why us, why now?" Nyx turned to face her, his silver eyes reflecting the starlight. "There is an old Varadian belief that the universe sometimes creates bridges where they are most needed. Perhaps we are such a bridge." As if in response to his words, their connection flared brighter, and Lyra gasped as she caught glimpses of his homeworld, vast crystal cities floating in violet clouds, the double moons casting rainbow shadows across ancient temples. I saw Varadia," she whispered, "through your memories." "And I see Earth," he replied softly. "Green forests, blue oceans, the way your sun looks through atmosphere, it's beautiful." They stood in silence, both physical and mental, letting the implications wash over them. Whatever this connection was, it went far beyond simple telepathy. They were experiencing each other's worlds, cultures, and perspectives in a way no diplomatic exchange could facilitate. "The negotiations over the next few days," Lyra said finally, This could affect them. Or help them, Nyx suggested. We can understand each other's positions with perfect clarity. No misunderstandings, no cultural confusion. As long as we can keep our thoughts focused during the meetings, Lyra added with a small smile. It might be distracting having two sets of perspectives on everything. Nyx's amusement rippled through their connection. We will learn to manage it, though I must admit I find your human thought patterns fascinating. They're so vivid, emotional. And yours are incredibly structured, Lyra observed, like living mathematics. Their conversation was interrupted by a calm alert. The next round of diplomatic meetings would begin soon. As they prepared to return to their formal roles, Lyra felt Nyx's consciousness brush against hers one more time. Whatever this is, his thoughts whispered, I believe it happened for a reason. I hope you're right, she replied, because I have a feeling this is just the beginning. They walked back to the conference room, outwardly maintaining the proper distance between a human diplomatic officer and a Varadean ambassador. But their minds remained connected, weaving together in an impossible dance that defied everything both their species thought they knew about the universe. As the next meeting began, Lyra couldn't help but wonder what other surprises awaited them. One thing was certain, the relationship between humans and Varadians was about to change in ways no one could have predicted. 3 days into the negotiations, Lyra was beginning to understand both the benefits and challenges of sharing a mental link with Ambassador Nyx. During diplomatic sessions, their connection gave them unprecedented insight into each side's true positions, but maintaining professional distance while their minds intertwined proved increasingly difficult. The proposed trade route through the Calyx Nebula is unacceptable, Protocol Officer Damian Reed stated firmly, pointing to the holographic star chart. It's too close to Earth's primary colony worlds. Lyra felt Nyx's immediate reaction not offense, but a complex mixture of concern and strategic calculation. Through their link, she understood the Varadians' desperate need for safe passage through that particular sector. Their ships are failing, Nyx's thoughts revealed. The nebula's radiation signature matches our engine's resonance frequency. Without access to it, our transport vessels will begin breaking down within months. Perhaps we could discuss alternative arrangements, Lyra suggested, carefully keeping her tone neutral. What if Earth provided escort vessels through a designated corridor? The other human diplomats shifted uncomfortably, but Lyra sensed Nyx's approval of the compromise. His silver eyes met hers briefly across the table. Clever solution, his thoughts whispered. It gives your people oversight while meeting our needs. The meeting continued, with Lyra and Nyx subtly guiding their respective sides toward mutually beneficial agreements. But during a brief recess, Protocol Officer Reed pulled Lyra aside. You've been unusually intuitive about the Varadians' positions, he said, studying her face. Almost as if you know what they're thinking before they speak. Lyra kept her expression carefully neutral. I've been studying their cultural briefings extensively. It helps to understand their perspective. Reed's eyes narrowed slightly. Just remember where your loyalties lie, Officer Winters. We can't afford to appear too accommodating. As Reed walked away, Lyra felt Nyx's concern brush against her mind. They met later in the ship's arboretum, a space designed to showcase Earth's plant life to visiting diplomats. The ambassador's tall form moved gracefully between the trees, his iridescent skin reflecting hints of green. Your colleague suspects something, Nyx said quietly. Reed has always been suspicious by nature, Lyra replied, but uncertainty colored her thoughts. Though he's not wrong about my insight into Varadian positions being unusual. Our connection grows stronger, Nyx observed. I find myself understanding human idioms I've never heard before, knowing Earth customs I was never taught. Lyra nodded, and I've been dreaming in Varadian mathematics. Last night I solved an equation in my sleep that I shouldn't even be able to comprehend. They walked in silence, both physical and mental, letting the gentle sound of the Arboretum's artificial stream fill the air. Through their link, Lyra felt Nyx's growing attachment to her and her own answering response, a warmth that went beyond diplomatic cooperation or even friendship. It's becoming harder to hide, she finally said. This morning I caught myself responding to something you only thought, not said. And I nearly used a human gesture in front of the Varadean Council members, Nyx admitted. Our behaviors are blending. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent alert. The ship's AI announced an incoming transmission from Varadia. Nyx's anxiety spiked through their connection before he could shield it. "What's wrong?" Lyra asked, both aloud and mentally. "The High Council rarely makes direct contact during diplomatic missions," he replied. "Something must have happened." They hurried to the communication center, maintaining proper diplomatic distance despite their shared concern. The transmission revealed their fears were justified. A radical faction on Varadia was moving to block the treaty negotiations, claiming that closer ties with humans would dilute their species' purity. Lyra felt Nyx's mind race through calculations and possibilities. "This could destroy everything we've worked for," his thoughts echoed with frustration. "Unless we can prove that our species are stronger together than apart," Lyra responded silently. "But how?" Through their connection, an idea formed, not fully human or Varadean, but a hybrid of both thought patterns. If they could demonstrate the benefits of human-Varadean cooperation in a practical way. "The Calyx Nebula," Nyx said suddenly. "My people need it for our ships, but your scientists have been unable to study it up close because of the radiation." Lyra caught his meaning immediately. "If we combined Varadean shielding technology with human sensor arrays, we could map the nebula's properties in unprecedented detail," Nyx finished, "benefiting both our species." They spent the next hours drafting a proposal, their shared consciousness allowing them to anticipate and address potential objections from both sides. When they finally presented it to their respective authorities, the elegant simplicity of the plan was hard to dismiss. But as the day ended and they parted ways, both felt a growing awareness that they were walking a dangerous line. Their mental connection had become more than a diplomatic tool, it was reshaping them both in fundamental ways. "Be careful," Lyra sent as they separated for the night. "I sense the opposition on your world is stronger than you've admitted. And your protocol officer's suspicions could complicate matters." Nyx replied. "We must proceed with caution." Yet as Lyra lay in her quarters that night, she could still feel Nyx's consciousness at the edges of her mind, like starlight seeping through closed curtains. Their connection hummed with potential and danger in equal measure, and she couldn't help but wonder if they were about to change the course of human-Varadean relations forever, for better or worse. The headache hit Lyra without warning during the middle of a routine briefing. She stumbled, catching herself against the conference table as waves of disorientation washed over her. Through their mental link, she felt Nyx's immediate concern, followed by his own flash of pain. "Something's wrong," his thoughts reached her strained and fractured. "The connection, it's changing." Protocol Officer Reed was speaking about security arrangements for the upcoming Nebula expedition, but his words faded into background noise as Lyra fought to maintain her composure. The pain intensified, and with it came fragments of memories that weren't her own: ancient Varadean ceremonies, childhood moments on a world with purple skis, the first time Nyx had seen Earth through the viewport of his ship. "Officer Winters," Reed's voice cut through her confusion, "are you unwell?" "I'm fine," she managed, though she could feel Nyx's disagreement through their link. "Just a momentary dizzy spell." But it wasn't fine. As the day progressed, the symptoms grew worse. Their mental connection, once a controlled exchange of thoughts and feelings, began to blur the boundaries between them. Lyra found herself unconsciously using Varadean mathematical principles to calculate supply routes. During a private meeting, Nyx accidentally spoke in English idioms that he shouldn't have known. They met in secret that evening in the ship's observatory, both physically and mentally exhausted from maintaining appearances. "Our minds are integrating more deeply," Nyx said, his usually pristine appearance showing signs of strain. "The process is accelerating beyond our control." Lyra pressed her hands against the cool glass of the viewport, watching distant stars blur through tears of pain. "We need help, Nyx. We can't handle this alone anymore." "But who can we trust?" His thoughts carried images of the growing opposition on Varadia, the radical factions that would use their condition as proof that contact with humans was dangerous. "There might be someone," Lyra said slowly. "Dr. Raven Santos. She's our chief xenobiologist, and more importantly, she's known me since the academy. If anyone would keep this confidential." Their shared consciousness filled with possibilities, risks, and potential outcomes, a hybrid analysis born of both human intuition and Varadean logic. Finally, they agreed it was worth the risk. Dr. Santos's reaction to their revelation was not what they expected. The xenobiologist's dark eyes lit up with barely contained excitement as she ran scan after scan in the privacy of her lab. "This is unprecedented," she muttered, studying the neural activity displays. "Your brainwave patterns are harmonizing, adopting identical frequencies. It's as if your minds are becoming quantum entangled." "Can you help us control it?" Lyra asked, wincing as another wave of shared memories washed over her. "Control it?" Dr. Santos looked up from her instruments. "Don't you understand what's happening? This could be the next step in interspecies relations. Your minds aren't just connecting, they're evolving to accommodate each other's thought patterns." Through their link, Lyra felt Nyx's sudden realization. The ancient texts his thoughts whispered, the prophecies about bridges between stars. "What prophecies?" Dr. Santos asked, then blinked in surprise when she realized Nyx hadn't spoken aloud. "There are stories," Nyx explained, his four hands moving in elegant gestures that Lyra now recognized as traditional Varadean emphasis. "Tales of a time when our species would find others who could share consciousness, leading to a great transformation. We dismissed them as myths, but now." "This is more than just telepathy," Dr. Santos said, studying new readings. "Your neural patterns suggest you're developing shared cognitive frameworks. You're literally learning to think like each other's species." Another spike of pain shot through their connection, and this time both Lyra and Nyx gasped. The sensations were becoming more intense, more frequent. "The process appears to be reaching a critical point," Dr. Santos observed, concern finally breaking through her scientific fascination. "Your minds are trying to achieve a stable shared state, but the physiological differences between your species are creating resistance. We need to make a decision." Nyx's thoughts reached Lyra. "Either we find a way to block this connection, or we let it complete whatever transformation it's trying to achieve," Lyra finished. The choice was interrupted by an urgent alert. Reed's voice came over the ship's comm system. "All senior staff to the bridge immediately. We've detected unauthorized transmissions to Varadia containing classified information about the mental connection between Officer Winters and Ambassador Nyx." The three of them froze, looking at each other in horror. Their secret was out. "How?" Lyra whispered, but through their link, she and Nyx were already piecing it together. The subtle signs they'd missed. The moments when Reed had seemed too interested in their interactions. "We need to move quickly," Dr. Santos said, already deleting her scan data. "If certain factions on either side learn the full extent of what's happening between you." She didn't need to finish the thought. Both Lyra and Nyx could sense the danger through their shared consciousness. The fear their condition would spark, the possibility of being treated as test subjects, the threat to the fragile peace between their species. "We run," Nyx's thoughts emerged with clarity through their pain. "No," Lyra responded. "We face this together. If this connection means what we think it does, hiding will only delay the inevitable." Their minds merged more deeply in that moment, human determination blending with Varadean wisdom. Whatever was happening to them, whatever they were becoming, they would face it standing side by side. Dr. Santos watched them with a mixture of concern and wonder as their shared decision crystallized. "Whatever you're planning," she said softly, "I'll help. This is too important to let fear destroy it." As if in response to their resolve, the pain in their connection began to transform, becoming something else, a sense of possibility, of potential about to be realized. Through their linked consciousness, Lyra and Nyx glimpsed what they might become and what it could mean for both their species. The bridge awaited, and with it the confrontation that would change everything. But for the first time since their connection began, they were ready to embrace whatever came next together. The bridge of the Concordia had never felt so crowded. Protocol Officer Reed stood with a security team, their expressions grim. On the main view screen, both Earth Command and the Varadean High Council watched in tense silence as Lyra and Nyx entered together. "Officer Winters, Ambassador Nyx," Reed began formally, "you are both accused of concealing a potentially dangerous biological phenomenon that could threaten the security of both our species." But before either could respond, Dr. Santos burst onto the bridge. "You're wrong," she announced, drawing all eyes to her. "What's happening isn't a threat, it's already spreading." Through their link, Lyra and Nyx shared a moment of surprise. "What does she mean?" Their thoughts synchronized. "Explain yourself, Dr. Santos," demanded the Varadean Council leader, his image shimmering on the screen. "In the past hour, we've received reports from 3 other diplomatic stations," Santos said, pulling up data on her tablet. Two human Varadean pairs have developed similar mental connections. It's not an isolated incident, it's an evolutionary response to our species' contact. Reed stepped forward, all the more reason to quarantine them until we understand. He stopped mid-sentence as one of his security officers suddenly stumbled, reaching out to steady herself against a Varadean aide. The moment they touched, both gasped, their eyes widening in shock. They're connecting, Nyx's thoughts whispered to Lyra, just like we did. Through their now stabilized link, they watched as the security officer and aide experienced the first moments of mental contact. The fear, the wonder, the sudden rush of alien thoughts, they remembered it all. This is precisely what we feared, the Earth Command representative said, if this spreads. It's not spreading randomly, Dr. Santos interrupted, her eyes alight with understanding. It's happening to pairs who are uniquely compatible, whose minds can adapt to each other's thought patterns, and each connection is teaching us more about both our species. Lyra stepped forward, drawing on Nyx's calm presence in her mind. What we've experienced isn't just telepathy. Through this link, we've gained deep understanding of each other's cultures, sciences, ways of thinking. Nyx can now grasp human emotional complexity in ways no Varadean ever could before, and I can comprehend Varadean mathematical concepts that should be beyond human capability. She speaks truth, the new Varadean aide said softly, still holding onto the security officer's arm. I can feel human thoughts forming in my mind, but they're not foreign anymore, they make sense. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. Through their connection, Lyra and Nyx could sense the shift in the room's energy, fear giving way to curiosity, suspicion yielding to possibility. Dr. Santos took advantage of the moment. This isn't a crisis to contain, it's an opportunity to embrace. These connections could bridge the gaps between our species in ways we never imagined possible. And what of those who cannot form such bonds? Reed asked, though his tone had lost some of its hostility. Will they be left behind? No, Nyx answered, his four hands moving in calming gestures. Those of us who share these connections can serve as interpreters, teachers, helping others understand across the divide. We become living bridges between our peoples. As if to emphasize his point, more reports began flowing in from other diplomatic stations. A human scientist and Varadean engineer working on shield harmonics, a Varadean cultural attaché and human linguistics expert, each pair reporting the same phenomenon, minds connecting, knowledge sharing, understanding deepening. It's really happening, Lyra's thoughts melded with Nyx's, the transformation your ancient texts predicted. The Earth Command representative cleared her throat. We need time to study this phenomenon properly to understand its implications. With all due respect, Dr. Santos interrupted, it's already happening. We can either fear it and fight it, or we can learn from it and grow with it. The Varadean Council leader was silent for a long moment, his silver eyes unreadable. Finally he spoke. Perhaps this is the universe showing us a path forward we could not see before. Through their connection, Lyra and Nyx felt the weight of the moment. They had moved beyond being merely examples of this new phenomenon, they were now its advocates, its guides, its pioneers. We'll need to help the others, Nyx's thoughts reached out. Show them how to balance the connection, how to maintain their individual selves while sharing consciousness. And we'll need to document everything, Lyra added. Create protocols, understanding that each pair's experience might be unique. As the bridge erupted into discussion about next steps and necessary precautions, Lyra and Nyx stood together, their minds harmonizing in perfect balance. They had passed through the fear and pain of transformation to find something beautiful on the other side, a new way of being that promised to change both their species forever. The universe, it seemed, had plans of its own for bringing stars together. 6 months after the first connections were discovered, the Calyx Nebula Research Station had become a symbol of what humans and Varadeans could achieve together. Lyra stood at its main observation deck, watching the swirling purple clouds through specially designed windows that combined both species' technologies. Beautiful, isn't it? Nyx's thoughts reached her before he entered the room. Their connection had grown stronger over time, yet they had learned to maintain their individual identities while sharing consciousness. The latest results from the Nebula study team are remarkable, Lyra said aloud as he joined her. The human Varadean paired scientists are making breakthroughs neither species could have achieved alone. Through their link, they shared memories of the past months, the careful documentation of each new connection, the establishment of training protocols for newly linked pairs, the gradual acceptance from both societies as the benefits became clear. Dr. Santos appeared in the doorway, her excitement palpable. "You need to see this," she said, leading them to her lab. "We've finally identified the catalyst for the connections." The lab's holographic display showed complex molecular structures rotating in the air. "It's a quantum resonance pattern in both species' neural architecture," Santos explained. "It was always there, dormant, waiting for the right conditions. When our species made contact, these patterns began to activate in compatible pairs. Like instruments tuning to the same frequency," Lyra murmured, understanding flowing through her link with Nyx. "Exactly," Santos confirmed. "But here's the fascinating part. The patterns are evolving. Each connected pair develops unique variations, creating what we're calling neural harmonies. And these harmonies are teaching us something incredible about consciousness itself." Through their shared awareness, Lyra and Nyx absorbed the implications. The connections weren't just about communication or understanding. They were revealing fundamental truths about how consciousness worked across species lines. "There's more," Santos continued. "We've detected similar dormant patterns in other species' neural structures. This could extend far beyond humans and Varadians." The news spread quickly through both diplomatic corps. Protocol Officer Reed, who had become a cautious supporter of the phenomenon, organized a joint conference to discuss the implications. "What we're witnessing," Reed addressed the assembled delegates, "is potentially the beginning of a new era in interstellar relations. These connections offer us a way to truly understand each other, not just through words and treaties, but through shared consciousness itself." The Varadean High Council leader, speaking via hologram, added his own perspective. "Our ancient texts spoke of a time when minds would bridge the void between stars. We thought it mere poetry. Now we understand it was prophecy born of deep genetic memory." As the conference continued, Lyra and Nyx slipped away to their favorite spot on the station, a small garden where earth plants grew alongside Varadean crystal flowers, creating an impossible but beautiful hybrid environment. "Do you ever regret it?" Lyra's thoughts reached out, being the first, taking the risk. Nyx's response flowed through their connection, carrying warmth and certainty. "Never. We opened a door that needed to be opened. What comes next may be unknown, but it will be wonderful." They had learned that their connection, like the garden around them, required care and attention to flourish. It was not always easy. There were still moments of cultural disconnect, times when their different ways of processing reality created confusion. But they had grown stronger through these challenges, learning to appreciate their differences as much as their similarities. A soft chime announced another pair of newly connected individuals had been discovered, this time at a trading outpost near the Centauri colonies. Through their link, Lyra and Nyx shared a moment of joy, remembering their own first contact. "We should prepare to mentor them," Lyra said aloud, though the words were almost unnecessary now. "Help them through the initial adjustment." Already planning the training program, Nyx's thoughts answered, tinged with amusement. "Though each pair's experience is unique, like a different movement in the same symphony." As they stood together in their hybrid garden, minds linked in perfect harmony, they could sense the future unfolding before them. More connections would form, more bridges would be built between stars and species. The universe, vast and mysterious, had given them a gift, not just the ability to communicate across species lines, but to truly understand, to share, to grow together. The transformation they had begun would continue, reaching out across the cosmos like ripples in a stellar pond. And somewhere in the quantum dance of consciousness and connection, new possibilities waited to be discovered. "Ready for the next chapter," Nyx's thoughts whispered. "Always," Lyra responded, their shared consciousness reaching out to touch the infinite potential of what was yet to come. And in the garden where Earth met Varadia, where biology defied expectations and minds bridged the gulf between stars, a new future was already blooming, one connection at a time.